The slipspace rupture tore reality apart with the violence of a dying star. One moment, the UNSC Infinity had been investigating Forerunner readings near Installation 07's debris field. The next, every alarm on the bridge screamed warnings as the fabric of space convulsed around the massive warship's hull. "Brace for emergency transition!" Commander Palmer's voice cut through the chaos on the command deck. Spartan's magnetized boots to deck plating while crew stations locked down. The view screens showed something impossible, not the familiar blue-white tunnel of slipspace, but a kaleidoscope of energies that read like hyperspace and slipspace, and something else entirely had collided. Then silence. The kind of silence that settles after surviving what should have killed you. "Damage report," Lasky ordered, his voice steady despite the adrenaline still coursing through his system. Around him, the bridge crew worked their stations with practiced efficiency, the result of years fighting the Covenant and worse. "Slipspace drive is offline, sir," Lieutenant Bradshaw reported from engineering. "The Forerunner components. They're not just damaged, Captain. They're resonating with something. Some kind of external energy signature I've never seen before. Weapons and shields, fully operational. Mac guns charged, missile pods ready. All fighter wings report green status. Navigation, where are we?" The nav officer's face went pale as he studied his displays. "Sir, stellar cartography doesn't match anything in UNSC databases. We're not in Covenant space. We're not in any charted space. The star patterns—" "Captain, I don't think we're in the Milky Way anymore." Lasky felt that statement settle over the bridge like a weight. 17,000 UNSC personnel, the most advanced warship humanity had ever built, lost in an unknown galaxy with no way home. He'd faced down Covenant armadas and Promethean constructs. But this was different. This was isolation on a scale that made deep space feel crowded. "Sir," the sensor officer straightened. "Contact. Massive structure bearing 173 Mark IV. Distance 400,000 kilometers enclosing. On screen." The view screen shifted, and every officer on the bridge drew breath. Floating against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars was a city. Not a space station, a city. Metallic towers rose from a central spire in a six-pointed configuration, the entire structure radiating a faint blue glow that spoke of active power systems. The design aesthetic was unlike anything in UNSC or Covenant databases. Elegant where Forerunner was austere, organic where human was angular. "Reading massive energy signatures," sensors reported. "Power generation off the scale. And sir, detecting atmosphere. That structure is maintaining a breathable environment in open space." "Ancient design," came a new voice from behind Lasky's chair. The captain turned to find Master Chief Petty Officer John 117 standing at attention, his Mjolnir armor's green paint scheme almost black in the bridge lighting. The Spartan 2 had been in the ship's armory when the rupture hit, and like always, he'd made his way to the bridge the moment crisis protocols engaged. "You recognize this?" Lasky asked. "No, sir." Chief's voice carried that characteristic calm that came from a lifetime of combat. "But the architecture... it reminds me of Forerunner installations. Same attention to function and beauty. Different execution. Captain, we're being hailed," communications announced. "Audio only." They're speaking English, sir." Lasky exchanged a glance with Chief. "English. In an unknown galaxy." Either the universe had a sense of humor, or they'd stumbled into something significant. "Put them through." Static crackled. Then a male voice with a slight drawl came through clear. "Unknown vessel, this is Lieutenant Colonel John Sheppard of the Atlantis expedition. You've just appeared on our doorstep in what I'm pretty sure is the biggest ship I've ever seen, and trust me, I've seen some big ships. You're reading as human, which is weird and also kind of great. So how about you power down those weapons that are making my scientists very nervous, and we'll talk about why you're parked in our galaxy." Palmer raised an eyebrow. He sounds military, but that was the most informal first contact I've ever heard. "Atlantis expedition," Chief repeated. "Captain, that matches mythology. The lost city. But mythology doesn't build space stations." Lasky made a decision. They were lost, possibly stranded, and had just encountered what appeared to be other humans with technology that could maintain a flying city. Answers were worth more than posturing. Colonel Sheppard, this is Captain Thomas Lasky of the UNSC Infinity. We've experienced a catastrophic slipspace malfunction and have no idea how we arrived in your space. We are human, we are military, and we're a very long way from home. Request permission to discuss our situation face to face. A pause. Then, UNSC? United Nations Space Command? As in Earth? That's affirmative. Another pause, longer this time. Lasky could hear muffled voices on the other end of conversation happening off mic. Finally, Sheppard returned. Captain, I'm going to send a small ship to escort you closer to the city. My chief scientist is practically vibrating with questions about your technology. And honestly, so am I, but fair warning, we've got protocols about unknown ships approaching Atlantis. ULO forgive us if we keep our shields up and weapons charged until we all comfortable. Understood, Colonel. We'll extend the same courtesy. Good. Also, heads up, welcome to the Pegasus Galaxy. It's dangerous. The locals are mostly hostile and we're all stuck here together. Sheppard out. The channel closed. Lasky looked at Chief, then at Palmer. Well, the Spartan 4 commander said, at least they're human. Human and military, Chief added. With ancient-level technology and a city that flies. Captain, we need to know what we've walked into. Lasky nodded. Through the view screen, he watched a small craft sleek, impossibly aerodynamic for space detach from the city and begin moving toward them. Its design was elegant, purposeful, and completely alien to UNSC engineering principles. Get me everything sensors can tell us about that city, he ordered. And prep a Pelican for diplomatic transport. Chief, you're with me. Sir. As the Spartan turned to leave the bridge, Lasky allowed himself one moment to process their situation. They'd survived the Covenant's attempt to exterminate humanity. They'd faced down Forerunner constructs and rampant AI. Now they were in an unknown galaxy, making first contact with humans who shouldn't exist, piloting technology that defied explanation. The war, it seemed, was never truly over. It just changed galaxies. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button. And drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. Indeed, outside the Infinity's viewports, the ancient city called Atlantis waited, its towers gleaming with secrets that predated human civilization by millions of years. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, sensors that had tasted the Infinity's arrival began to wake, spreading word through a vast and hungry network. The Wraith were listening, and they were very, very interested. The puddle jumper, that's what Sheppard called the Sleek, ancient craft docked with Infinity's starboard hangar bay 17 minutes later. Chief stood in full Mjolnir as the bay's atmospheric field shimmered, allowing the small ship to pass through while maintaining pressure. The craft was maybe 20 meters long, its hull a seamless blend of metal and something that looked almost organic. No visible weapons ports, no obvious thruster assemblies. Just smooth, purposeful lines that spoke of technology centuries beyond UNSC standards. The jumper's rear hatch descended like a ramp, and 4 figures emerged. The first was clearly military close-cropped hair, tactical vest over expedition gear, a sidearm on his hip, and an odd rifle-like weapon slung across his back. He moved with the easy confidence of someone who'd seen combat and survived it. This was Sheppard. The second was a woman with long dark hair pulled back, wearing similar tactical gear, but carrying herself with a different kind of awareness. Her eyes swept the hangar with a practiced evaluation of a warrior assessing threats. The third figure was a man in his late 30s, already talking before his boots hit the deck. Readings are off the scale. Do you have any idea how much power your ship is generating? And that's with your main drive offline. The energy signature alone. He stopped mid-sentence, staring at Chief. Oh my god, is that a powered exoskeleton? Full environmental seal? And those proportions. That's not just armor. That's McKay, Sheppard said, his tone suggesting this was a frequent occurrence. Breathe. The fourth member was another woman, shorter, with dark curly hair and an expression that suggested she was already cataloging everything she saw for a report. She carried a tablet rather than a weapon. Captain Lasky stepped forward, Chief at his right shoulder, Commander Palmer at his left. Military protocol meeting, military protocol. Colonel Sheppard. Lasky extended his hand. Captain Thomas Lasky, thank you for agreeing to meet. Sheppard's grip was firm. John Sheppard. This is Taylor and Megan, Dr. Rodney McKay, and Dr. Jennifer Keller. He glanced at Chief, and something flickered in his expression recognition of a fellow soldier. And you are? Master Chief Petty Officer John 117, Chief said simply. McKay's eyes widened. John 117? That's a numerical designation. You're not just wearing armor, you're... He trailed off, his scientific mind clearly racing. Enhanced? Cybernetically? Genetically, both? Dr. Taylor said quietly, her voice carrying an accent Chief couldn't place. Perhaps we should establish trust before interrogating our hosts. Right, yes, sorry. McKay didn't look sorry. He looked fascinated. Sheppard's eyes hadn't left the Infinity's interior, the massive hangar bay that could hold a dozen pelicans. The longsword fighters maglocked to the ceiling, the Scorpion tank secured along the walls. Captain, I'm going to be straight with you. We've been in the Pegasus Galaxy for about 5 years now. We've seen a lot of impressive technology, ancient, Wraith, Arsgard hand-me-downs. But this ship, he shook his head, this is human engineering. Our level of human engineering may be better. And that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to us either, Lasky admitted. We're from Earth, but clearly not the same Earth, you know. Different timeline, maybe. Different universe. We don't know. Your transmission mentioned slipspace, McKay interjected, unable to contain himself. That's faster than light travel, but not hyperspace. Something else. And your ship's energy reading suggests some kind of fusion-based system, but there's something else underneath. Something that reads almost like... He stopped, eyes going wide. 0-point energy. You're using ZPE, but the signature is different from our ZPMs. How is that possible? Chief saw Palmer tense slightly at the intelligence leak, but Lasky held up a hand. They needed allies more than secrets right now. Our drive systems incorporate Forerunner technology, Lasky said carefully. An ancient race from our galaxy. We've adapted their work to human use. The silence that followed was profound. Forerunner, Sheppard repeated slowly. Ancient race. Left behind advanced technology. Let me guess, built a galaxy-spanning network of installations, then disappeared mysteriously? Yes, Chief said. Sheppard and McKay exchanged a look. Taylor's expression had gone very still. Colonel, Taylor said quietly. The ancients... I know. Sheppard turned back to Lasky. Captain, I think we need to have a longer conversation. Preferably somewhere more comfortable than a hangar bay. Because unless I'm very much mistaken, you've just told me that your ancient precursor race and our ancient precursor race might be connected somehow. The ancients built Atlantis, McKay explained, his earlier excitement tempered with something more serious. Millions of years ago. They were the first evolution of humanity, or became humanity, depending on how you interpret the timeline. They built a network of stargates across 2 galaxies, achieved technological marvels we're still trying to understand, and then they either ascended to a higher plane of existence or died out from a plague. We're living in their city, using their technology, and fighting their old enemies. Enemies? Palmer asked sharply. The Wraith, Sheppard's expression darkened. The reason we all stuck here in Pegasus instead of going home to Earth whenever we want. Vampire-like species that feeds on human life force. They've been culling human populations in this galaxy for 10,000 years. There are thousands of them, and they consider humans livestock. Chief processed that. An enemy that fed on humans. A species-wide threat that had dominated an entire galaxy for millennia. It reminded him of the Covenant's genocidal campaign, but more personal, more predatory. How many? He asked. Hive ships? We've encountered dozens personally. Intelligence suggests there are hundreds more in hibernation throughout the galaxy. Each one carries thousands of Wraith. Sheppard met Chief's visors soldier to soldier. We've been fighting them with one city, a handful of puddle jumpers. And supply runs from Earth that come every few weeks if we're lucky. We're good at what we do, but we're outnumbered 1,000 to 1 on a good day. And now a massive unknown vessel appears in their space, Taylor added, her voice carrying concern. The Wraith monitor subspace communications. They will have detected your arrival. They will be curious. Let them be curious, Palmer said, her Spartan confidence showing. We've dealt with worse. Have you? Dr. Keller spoke for the first time, her voice surprisingly hard. Have you watched them feed on your friends? Drain decades of life in seconds? Turn human beings into husks? She took a breath, visibly steadying herself. I'm sorry, it's just... The Wraith aren't like other enemies. They're not trying to conquer. They're farming us. The hangar fell quiet. Chief had faced the flood parasitic horrors that consumed entire civilizations. He'd watched the Covenant glass planets. But there was something particularly cold about an enemy that saw humanity as food. Captain, he said, we should see Atlantis. Understand what we're dealing with? Lasky nodded. Agreed. Colonel Sheppard, would your city accommodate a delegation? Absolutely. Dr. Weir, our expedition leader, is already preparing a briefing room. Fair warning, though. Our chief scientist is going to want to take your ship apart, bolt by bolt. Metaphorically speaking, mostly. McKay raised his hand slightly. That would be me. And I make no promises about the metaphorically part. Rodney, Sheppard sighed. As they moved toward the puddle jumper, Chief noticed McKay gravitating toward the Spartan armor, questions clearly building behind his eyes. Taylor walked alongside Palmer, the two warriors sizing each other up with professional interest. Dr. Keller stayed close to Sheppard, occasionally glancing at the UNSC personnel with something that might have been hope. They were desperate, Chief realized. These people had been fighting a losing war against impossible odds, holding a city in enemy territory with limited resources and no real reinforcements. The Infinity's arrival wasn't just a curiosity to them. It was a lifeline, or a target that would draw every Wraith in the galaxy straight to them. As the puddle jumper lifted off and the hangar bay shimmered closed behind them, Chief looked through the forward viewport at Atlantis. The city was beautiful towers reaching skyward, power flowing through conduits that pulsed with gentle blue light, the whole structure floating on an ocean that stretched to a planet's horizon below. It reminded him of humanity's best achievements. Noble, purposeful, fragile. Chief, Lasky said quietly, standing beside him. Your assessment? They're soldiers, sir. Fighting a war they can't win with the resources they have. But they haven't given up. And if the Wraith come for the Infinity? Chief watched Atlantis grow larger in the viewport, its shields shimmering faintly in the alien sunlight. Then they'll learn what happens when they hunt Spartans. The Atlantis gate room was unlike anything Chief had seen in 20 years of combat across human and alien installations. The StarGate itself dominated the space. A massive ring 7 meters in diameter, covered in glyphs that seemed to shift in the light. 9 chevrons marked its circumference, and the whole apparatus sat on a platform surrounded by stairs that descended to the operations level below. The room's walls were organic metal, flowing in curves that suggested growth rather than construction. Ancient design philosophy made manifest. Dr. Elizabeth Weir stood waiting as the delegation entered, her professional smile not quite masking the exhaustion in her eyes. Chief recognized the look command fatigue, the weight of keeping people alive against impossible odds. Lasky carried it too. Captain Lasky, Master Chief, she extended her hand. Elizabeth Weir, leader of the Atlantis expedition. I apologize for not meeting you at the jumper bay, but we've been managing a situation. Situation? Lasky asked. 2 hive ships detected at the edge of the solar system, Sheppard reported, his casual tone not matching the severity of the information. Probably investigating the energy spike from your arrival. They're keeping their distance for now. Hive ships, Palmer repeated. How big are we talking? Each one is about 3 kilometers long, McKay answered, pulling up a holographic display from a nearby ancient console. The projection showed organic-looking vessels, all curves and bulbous sections like something grown rather than built. Biomechanical construction, incredibly efficient regenerative hull plating, and carrying anywhere from 3 to 12,000 Wraith depending on the class. Chief studied the display. 6 kilometers of enemy vessels. Under normal circumstances, the Infinity could handle that. Mac rounds would tear through organic hulls, and long swords could outmaneuver anything that size. But they didn't know Wraith capabilities yet. Unknown enemy doctrine was how good soldiers died. "They haven't approached?" he asked. "Not yet." Taylor's expression was troubled. "That is what concerns me. Normally, the Wraith are aggressive when they detect new human populations. This caution suggests they recognize the Infinity as a significant threat, or they're calling for backup," Sheppard added. "Wraith have a hive mind thing going on. Not total telepathy, but they communicate across vast distances. Those 2 ships are probably broadcasting to every hive in range right now." "Wonderful," Palmer muttered. Dr. Weir gestured toward the briefing room adjacent to the gate room. "Perhaps we should discuss this more formally. I've assembled our senior staff." The briefing room's windows overlooked Atlantis' ocean waves crashed against the city's shields hundreds of meters below, a reminder that this entire structure floated on an alien sea. Around the table sat several new faces. A weathered man with kind eyes introduced as Dr. Carson Beckett, Chief of Medicine. A young woman named Lieutenant Laura Cadman. And a tall Satadan warrior named Ronan Dex, who studied Chief with the focused intensity of someone cataloging a potential opponent's capabilities. "Let's start with the basics," Weir began. "Captain, you said you're from Earth, but clearly not our Earth. Can you elaborate?" Lasky nodded to McKay's holographic display, which shifted to show star charts. "We're from Earth, year 2558 by our calendar. Humanity had been at war with an alien alliance called the Covenant for 27 years, a genocidal campaign that nearly exterminated our species. We won, but it cost billions of lives and most of our colonies. The Infinity was built as our flagship using recovered Forerunner technology." "Forerunner?" McKay leaned forward. "You mentioned them before. Tell me about them." "Ancient race," Chief said, his voice carrying the weight of personal experience. "Millions of years old. Built installations across the galaxy, Hello's shield worlds, research facilities. They faced a parasitic species called the Flood and built the Halo Array as a last resort. 7 rings capable of wiping out all sentient life in the galaxy." The silence was absolute. "They fired them," Beckett said quietly, horror in his Scottish accent. "Didn't they?" "To stop the Flood, yes. Killed themselves and everything else. Then reseeded the galaxy with archived samples." Chief's HUD displayed Forerunner glyphs he'd memorized over countless missions. "They left behind AI constructs, weapons, and technology we're still learning to use." McKay was already typing furiously on a tablet. "The ancients are a precursor race. They did something similar. Faced a plague they couldn't cure, and most of them chose to ascend to a higher plane of existence rather than die. The ones who didn't ascend eventually evolved into modern humans. They built the Stargate's wormhole-based transportation network connecting thousands of worlds across multiple galaxies." "Wormhole travel," Lasky said. "That's how you got to Pegasus." "Originally, yes. Now we have ships with hyperspace drives, Daedalus-class battlecruisers. Earth sends one every few weeks with supplies and personnel rotation. But it's a 3-week journey each way, and we can't evacuate if things go wrong. Because of the Wraith," Palmer stated. Sheppard's expression hardened. "Because of the Wraith. When we first arrived in Atlantis 5 years ago, we accidentally woke them up. They'd been hibernating for centuries, waiting for human populations to rebuild after their last culling campaign. We rang the dinner bell, and they've been hunting us ever since." Ronan spoke for the first time, his voice carrying bitter experience. "I am Satadan. My world had 2 million people before the Wraith came. They culled us down to a few thousand, then destroyed our civilization for resisting. I spent 7 years as a runner. They put a tracking device in me and hunted me for sport across a dozen worlds. Chief understood immediately. The Covenant had hunted humans for sport too, before deciding genocide was more efficient. But the Wraith's approach was more insidious. Keep the prey alive, let them breed, harvest periodically. Sustainable predation. How do they feed? He asked. Dr. Keller's hands clenched slightly. They have specialized organs in their hands. When they press them against a human chest, they drain life force directly. We've seen people aged 50 years in seconds. It's not just killing, it's consuming the victim's life energy to sustain the Wraith's existence. Can it be reversed? Sometimes, if we catch it early. But most victims, she trailed off. We've killed plenty of them, Sheppard interjected, clearly trying to shift the mood. They're not invincible. Their technology is impressive, but they rely on numbers and regeneration rather than innovation. We've destroyed dozens of hive ships, crippled their cloning facilities, even turned some of their own weapons against them. With one ancient city and limited Earth support, Lasky observed. That's remarkable, Colonel. We're motivated. Sheppard's smile was grim. And we've got the best toys. Ancient drones, powerful shields, a chair interface that lets someone with the right gene control the city's weapons. Problem is, every time we bloody their nose, more show up. There are simply too many of them. McKay brought up tactical displays showing Wraith engagement patterns, fleet compositions, and culling schedules across Pegasus. Chief studied them with the analytical mindset of a career soldier. The Wraith were organized, efficient, and patient. They thought in terms of centuries rather than years. Your ship changes the equation, Weir said carefully. The Wraith have never faced anything like the Infinity. Your weapons, your shields, if even half of what our sensors detected is accurate, you could engage multiple hive ships simultaneously. We could, Lasky agreed. But that makes us a target. Every Wraith in Pegasus will want us dead or captured. They'll want your technology, Taylor added. The Wraith are scavengers. They absorb and adapt anything useful they find. If they learn to replicate your weapons, the implication hung heavy. UNSC technology in Wraith hands could shift the balance across 2 galaxies. Then we make sure they don't get it, Palmer said flatly. Standard protocol scuttle before capture. But I'm more concerned about getting home. You said you have hyperspace technology? We do, McKay confirmed. But it's completely different from your slipspace drive. Different physics, different power requirements. I need to study your ship's systems extensively to even begin proposing a hybridization solution. Which brings us to the real question, Weir said, looking between Lasky and Chief. What do you want to do? You're stranded in our galaxy, being hunted by our enemies, with technology that could tip the balance of a war we've been losing. Do you want to fight your way home? Do you want to help us? Can we even help each other? Lasky was quiet for a moment. Chief knew his captain was weighing duty against reality. The Infinity's mission was to protect humanity, but which humanity? The one 3 million light-years away? Or the one sitting at this table, holding the line against predators with limited resources and unlimited courage? Dr. Weir, Lasky said finally, the UNSC doesn't abandon allies. These Wraith are a threat to all humanity, yours, ours, everyone they've subjugated. While we're stuck in Pegasus, we'll fight. And when we find a way home, we'll make sure you're not alone out here. Something shifted in the room, relief, hope, and the grim satisfaction of soldiers gaining a powerful ally. Good, Sheppard said. Because those 2 hive ships just changed course. They're heading straight for us. McKay's tablet chimed urgent warnings. Sensors detect hyperspace windows opening across the system. 6 more hive ships inbound. 8 total, converging on our position. ETA? Weir demanded. 90 minutes. Chief stood. Captain, we should return to the Infinity. Battle stations. Agreed. Lasky was already moving. Colonel Sheppard, can Atlantis defend itself? We've held off worse. But we've never had a supercarrier on our side before. Let's see what the Wraith thinks of UNSC firepower. As they rushed back toward the jumper bay, Chief caught Ronan's eye. The Satydan warrior grinned, the expression of someone who'd finally found worthy prey instead of being hunted. Wraith won't know what hit them, Ronan said. The Infinity's bridge hummed with controlled urgency as Captain Lasky settled into his command chair. Across every tactical display, 8 Wraith hive ships materialized from hyperspace in a loose formation, their organic hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that looked disturbingly alive. Each vessel dwarfed the Daedalus-class ships Atlantis relied on. But against the Infinity's 5.7 kilometers of Forerunner-enhanced human engineering, they seemed almost delicate. Almost. Tactical analysis, Lasky ordered. Ships are maintaining formation at 400,000 kilometers, Lieutenant Bradshaw reported. Detecting energy buildups across their hulls, weapons charging. Also reading smaller craft launching from the larger vessels. Hundreds of them. Wraith darts, Chief said from his position beside the captain's chair. He'd reviewed Atlantis's tactical database during the jumper flight back. Single-pilot fighters with culling beams. They dematerialize humans and store them for later feeding. Not on my ship they don't, Palmer growled from her tactical station. All longsword squadrons report ready for launch. Spartans are suited up and standing by for boarding action if needed. The communication channel crackled. Infinity, this is Sheppard. Atlantis shields are at maximum. We're launching puddle jumpers for support, but fair warning, our drones are devastating against Wraith ships, but we've only got so many. Don't expect us to carry the fight. Understood, Colonel, Lasky replied. We'll handle the heavy lifting. Infinity out. He leaned forward, studying the alien vessels. Weapons, what's our firing solution? Multiple options, sir. MAC guns have clear line of sight on 6 targets. Archer missiles locked on all 8. Shall I deploy the primary max? Chief watched the tactical display update. The UNSC had fought the Covenant for decades, multiple enemy vessels. Overwhelming numbers, impossible odds. This was familiar territory. Deadly but familiar. Captain, McKay's voice came through on the open channel from Atlantis, sounding breathless. Before you start shooting, I should mention that Wraith hive ships have incredibly efficient regenerative capabilities. Their organic hulls can repair damage faster than conventional weapons can inflict it. You'll need to hit them hard enough to overwhelm their regeneration, or you'll just make them angry. How hard? Lasky asked. I've seen ancient drone weapons punch through. High-velocity kinetic impacts might work, but energy weapons tend to dissipate across the biological matrix. You want penetration, not dispersion. Lasky allowed himself a thin smile. Commander Palmer, I believe the doctor just described a Mac round. Palmer's grin was predatory. Music to my ears, sir. Weapons free. Target the lead hive ship. Let's show them what Earth can do. The Infinity's primary magnetic accelerator cannon, a weapon system designed to crack Covenant cruisers in half swiveled and locked onto the largest Wraith vessel. The charging sequence took 3 seconds, electromagnetic coils building to critical power. Then the deck shuddered as a 3,000-ton tungsten carbide round accelerated to 4% light speed and crossed the distance in less than a heartbeat. The impact was catastrophic. The Mac round struck the hive ship's forward section with the force of a small nuclear weapon. The organic hull didn't just breach, it exploded outward in a spray of biological matter and escaping the atmosphere. The projectile punched completely through the vessel, emerging from the aft section trailing debris. Sections of the ship's superstructure collapsed inward, biomechanical systems sparking and failing as the damage propagated. Direct hit. Tactical calls out. Target's structural integrity was compromised. Reading massive power fluctuations, they're trying to regenerate, but the damage is too severe. Hull breach expanding. Chief watched the wounded hive ship list to port, its bioluminescent patterns flickering erratically. It was dying, but it wasn't dead yet. The Wraith weren't retreating either. Instead, the remaining 7 ships accelerated forward, weapons ports opening across their hulls like mouths filled with teeth. They're angry now, Sheppard observed from Atlantis. Incoming fire! The Wraith primary weapons, organic energy projectors that looked like clusters of tumors on the ship's hulls, erupted with sickly green bolts. Chief counted dozens of simultaneous impacts against Infinity's shields. The ship's Forerunner enhanced energy barriers flared but held, absorbing the strikes with barely a flicker. Shields holding at 98%, engineering reported. Their weapons are powerful, but our barriers are designed for Forerunner hardlight and Covenant plasma. This is negligible by comparison. Don't get cocky, Lasky warned. They're probing our defenses. Helm evasive pattern Delta 7. Weapons, scattershot targeting. Hit them all, make them divide their attention. The Infinity rolled all 5.7 kilometers of warship, moving with surprising grace as its enhanced maneuvering thrusters fired. Archer missile pods across the hull opened simultaneously, and the space between ships filled with hundreds of synchronized munitions. The missiles streaked toward their targets in coordinated waves, electronic warfare suites jamming Wraith countermeasures. 5 Hive ships took direct hits. The Archers were Mac rounds. They lacked the raw kinetic force to punch through hulls, but they didn't need to. Each missile carried a high explosive payload designed to crack armor plating. Against organic hulls that relied on regeneration, the fragmentation pattern was devastatingly effective. Explosions rippled across the Wraith vessels, tearing open sections faster than the ships could heal. Multiple hull breaches across the fleet. Tactical confirmed. They're regenerating, but we're outpacing their repair capabilities. Longsword squadrons, you are cleared to engage, Palmer ordered. Target the darts. Keep them away from the Infinity. The Infinity's ventral hangars opened, and 48 longsword interceptors launched in perfect formation. The single-seat fighters were works of brutal efficiency, twin autocannons, rotary missile launchers, and ASGM-10 missiles that could cripple Covenant corvettes. Against the smaller, more agile Wraith darts, they were perfectly matched. The fighter engagement erupted across the battlefield like a swarm of angry hornets. Wraith darts were fast and maneuverable, their organic construction allowing turns that would pulp a human pilot. But longsword pilots were UNSC's finest veterans of battles against Covenant Seraphs and Banshees. They fought with coordinated precision, using their autocannons to shred dart formations before finishing survivors with missiles. Splash 6 darts, one pilot called over the combat net. These things are quick, but their armor's paper-thin. One good burst, and they're vapor. Chief watched the tactical display update. The Infinity was winning. Wraith ships were damaged and bleeding atmosphere, their fighter screen being systematically eliminated, and their weapons couldn't penetrate the ship's shields. But something felt wrong. The Wraith weren't retreating or even adjusting tactics. They just kept coming, absorbing punishment with the patience of predators who'd hunted for millennia. "Captain," he said quietly. "This is too easy." Lasky had clearly been thinking the same thing. "They're testing us. Learning our capabilities." "Infinity Atlantis," Sheppard's voice cut through. "We're detecting hyperspace signatures, lots of them. 12 more Hive ships incoming, ETA 2 minutes. I think your new friends just called for backup," Palmer swore. 20 Hive ships total? "They don't care about losses," Taylor's voice added from Atlantis. "The Wraith value intelligence over individual survival. These ships are sacrificing themselves to map your defensive capabilities for the larger fleet." Chief processed that. Classic intelligence gathering through attrition. The Covenant had done something similar during early war engagements, probing UNSC defenses with expendable ships while fleet commanders observed from safe distances. These first 8 Hive ships weren't trying to win, they were gathering data for the main assault. "Captain, recommendation," Chief said. "We need to eliminate these ships before the reinforcements arrive. Can't let them transmit detailed tactical analysis." "Agreed. Weapons, concentrate all fire. I want every ship in this system disabled in the next 60 seconds." The Infinity's full arsenal spoke as one. Primary and secondary MAC guns fired in sequence, each round tearing through Wraith hulls with terminal authority. Archer missiles saturated remaining ships, overwhelming their regeneration with sheer volume. Point defense autocannons tracked and destroyed incoming fire with mechanical precision. The wounded hive ship from the initial salvo finally succumbed, its structural integrity collapsing as internal explosions tore through its organic corridors. Chief imagined Wraith screaming inside, drowning in vacuum as their ship died around them. He felt nothing. They'd chosen to hunt humanity. This was the consequence. 3 more hive ships followed in quick succession, crippled beyond regeneration and torn apart by follow-up MX strikes. The remaining 4 attempted to retreat, their hyperspace drives charging as they recognized the battle's futility. "Don't let them leave," Lasky ordered. "Target their drive sections." Long swords broke from their engagement with the last few darts, redirecting to missile runs on the fleeing hive ships. AGM-120 sharpshooter missiles designed for precision strikes against critical systems locked onto the pulsing organic drives at the hive ship's cores. The impacts were surgical, detonating deep inside the ship's propulsion chambers. 2 hive ships exploded outright, their hyperspace drives rupturing catastrophically. The final 2 managed to jump, but their departures were ragged, uncontrolled ships fleeing rather than retreating tactically. "Battlefield secure," Tactical reported. 6 hive ships destroyed, 2 damaged and fleeing, all darts eliminated. "No damage to Infinity." "Longsword losses?" Palmer asked. 3 fighters took damage. All pilots reporting safe return to ship. The bridge fell quiet, the adrenaline of combat fading into professional assessment. They'd won decisively, but everyone present understood what it meant. "The Wraith know what we can do now," Lasky said. "Those 2 ships that escaped will report to their fleet. Next time won't be 8 hive ships. Or even 20. Infinity, this is Atlantis." Dr. Weir's voice carried controlled urgency. "We're detecting significant subspace communications traffic across Pegasus. The Wraith are broadcasting widely. I think you just became the most wanted target in the galaxy." Chief looked at the debris field spreading across their tactical, displayed the remains of ships that had ruled Pegasus for 10,000 years, destroyed in minutes by human weapons they'd never encountered before. The Wraith had hunted humanity across this galaxy for millennia, culling populations like livestock. Now they knew humanity could fight back, could kill them, could end them. Chief suspected that knowledge would make them far more dangerous. "Captain," he said, "we should establish defensive protocols with Atlantis. If the Wraith are mobilizing, they'll hit us with everything they have." Lasky nodded grimly. "Agreed. Commander Palmer, coordinate with Colonel Sheppard. I want joint defense plans ready within the hour." He stared at the spreading debris field. "We came to Pegasus by accident, but we're going to make damn sure the Wraith regret meeting us." Dr. Rodney McKay stood in the Infinity's primary engineering bay, and for perhaps the first time in his remarkably verbose career, he was speechless. The slipspace drive core rose 5 decks through the center of the ship, a massive assembly of human-built fusion reactors wrapped around something that definitely wasn't human. The Forerunner components gleamed with that characteristic silver-blue patina, their surfaces covered in glyphs that seemed to shift perspective depending on viewing angle. Energy flowed through conduits that followed mathematical principles. McKay recognized from ancient technology but executed with completely different engineering philosophy. "This is impossible," he finally managed, his tablet forgotten in his hands. "This is beautifully, magnificently, wonderfully impossible." Lieutenant Bradshaw, the Infinity's chief engineer, raised an eyebrow. "You say that like it's a good thing. The drive's still non-functional after the rupture." "Non-functional? This shouldn't function at all." "You've integrated 2 completely different technological paradigms, human engineering and Forerunner architecture, into a cohesive system. Do you have any idea how many civilization-destroying catastrophes usually result from that kind of hybridization?" 7, Chief said from his position near the containment field. He'd removed his helmet, revealing a scarred face that matched the toll of decades of combat. "We've had 7 critical failures during Forerunner integration testing. Lost 3 research stations and approximately 400 personnel before we developed stable protocols." McKay's excitement dimmed. "Oh, that's actually terrible," War makes you pragmatic about acceptable losses, Chief said simply. The Covenant had superior technology. We needed an edge. The Forerunners left one. We took it. Mackay moved closer to the containment field, his scientific curiosity overriding common sense as he studied the damaged sections. The rupture created some kind of cascade failure in the Forerunner components. They're resonating with something, an external energy field that wasn't present in your galaxy. He pulled up spectral analysis on his tablet. And that energy signature, my God, it's ancient. Your Forerunner technology is reacting to ancient technology. You said they might be connected, Bradshaw noted. Connected? This is more than connected. These energy patterns are nearly identical. Different execution, same fundamental principles. Mickey's mind raced through implications. What if the Forerunners and the Ancients didn't just share similar developmental paths? What if they were the same species at some point or encountered each other? Or, he trailed off, staring at the glyphs. Can you read these? Some, Chief said. Forerunner language shares root structures with human mathematical principles. We've had AI assistants translating. Why? Because ancient is similar. Different alphabet, different syntax, but the underlying mathematical foundation is almost identical. Mackay pulled up ancient text on his tablet, comparing it to the Forerunner glyphs. Look at this. This symbol in Forerunner, it represents the concept of folding space-time for faster-than-light travel. And this ancient glyph means the same thing, just approached from a different dimensional framework. Bradshaw leaned in, interested despite herself. So they both invented FTL independently but using the same math? Or they both learned it from someone else, or one taught the other? Mackay was typing furiously now. The ancients built the stargates millions of years ago. They spread across multiple galaxies. What if they encountered your Forerunners? Shared technology? That would explain why your slipspace drive is reacting to Pegasus. This entire galaxy is saturated with residual ancient energy from the StarGate network and Atlantis herself. Can you fix it? Chief asked, cutting through the speculation with tactical practicality. Mackay hesitated. Fix it? Maybe, but I'd be integrating ancient technology into an already hybridized Forerunner human system. The compatibility issues alone. He paused, looking at the drive core with a calculating expression. Actually, that might work. If the Forerunner components are already resonating with ancient energy, maybe I can use that resonance to stabilize the system. Feed it what it's looking for instead of fighting the reaction. You'd need ancient power sources, Bradshaw said. We have ZP0 point modules. They're ancient power sources that draw energy from vacuum fluctuations in subspace. 1 ZPM could power Atlantis for generations. Mickey's expression turned complicated. Problem is, we only have 3 functional ZPMs left, and we need all 3 to maintain the city's shields and essential systems. Especially now that the Wraith know about the Infinity. We could use our reactors, Bradshaw suggested. No offense, but your reactors are impressive by human standards, barely adequate by ancient standards. To properly stabilize a slipspace drive that's been compromised by dimensional rupture, you need exotic energy at scales that make fusion look like a campfire. Chief considered this. Then we need to find more ZPMs. Oh, is that all? Mickey's sarcasm was reflexive. Sure, let me just check the ancient technology store. Maybe they're having a sale, he sighed. ZPMs are incredibly rare. The ancients manufactured them in specialized facilities, most of which were destroyed or lost millions of years ago. We found a few scattered across the Pegasus Galaxy, but they're usually depleted or guarded by things that want to kill us. But you know where some are? Chief pressed. Mackay pulled up a star chart on the main display, highlighting several systems. We have intelligence on 3 possible locations. One is on a planet called Tyranny's volcanic world, ancient outpost buried under lava flows. Another is on a space station the Genii claimed, which means we'd have to negotiate with people who've tried to steal Atlantis from us twice. The third, he zoomed in on a specific system. The third is in Wraith-controlled space. Specifically, in a facility the Wraith use as a research station. You want us to raid a Wraith base? Bradshaw said flatly. I want to fix your ship, McKay corrected. Raiding a Wraith base just happens to be the most direct path to the technology we need. The engineering bay's entrance hissed open, admitting Captain Lasky, Commander Palmer, and Colonel Sheppard. The UNSC officers looked like they'd been in tactical briefings for hours, which Chief knew they had been. Dr. McKay, Lasky said, please tell me you have good news about the drive. I have complex news about the drive. Whether it's good depends on your tolerance for high-risk infiltration missions into hostile alien installations. Sheppard grinned. That's literally Tuesday for us. What do you need? McKay explained the ZPM situation quickly, highlighting the 3 possible acquisition points. Lasky studied the star chart with the analytical gaze of a career officer weighing mission variables. The Genii option is political, he observed. Time-consuming and uncertain. The volcanic planet sounds resource-intensive. But the Wraith facility is incredibly dangerous, Sheppard finished. But also the most straightforward. Until now, Palmer said, understanding dawning. The Infinity could insert a strike team, Chief said, already planning the operation. Spartans are trained for exactly this kind of mission. Fast infiltration, objective acquisition, tactical withdrawal. You'd need local expertise. Taylor's voice came from the entrance. She'd entered silently, a skilled chief appreciated. Ronan was with her, the Satydan warrior looking eager at the prospect of violence. The Wraith facility's layout, their security protocols, the location of their research archives. You would be operating blind without someone who understands their tactics. You've been inside Wraith facilities before, Chief observed, many times. Usually while escaping captivity. Her expression was haunted for a moment before hardening. I know how they think, how they organize their ships and stations, where they keep their most valuable resources. Ronan cracked his knuckles. Been wanting to hit that station for months. They experimented on Satyadans there. Time for payback. Lasky looked at Sheppard. Colonel, this is your galaxy and your people. If we're going to run joint operations, I need to know you're comfortable with UNSC combat doctrine. We don't take chances with unknown enemy installations. We go in hard, fast, and loud. Captain, we've been fighting the Wraith for 5 years with puddle jumpers and P-90s. The idea of going in with Spartans, UNSC firepower, and actual tactical superiority? Sheppard's smile was sharp. I'm more than comfortable. I'm enthusiastic. Chief pulled up tactical schematics on the display, already cross-referencing Atlantis intelligence with UNSC mission parameters. We'll need detailed reconnaissance. Station layout, Wraith troop concentrations, ZPM storage locations, extraction routes. I can provide that, McKay said. We've intercepted Wraith communications about the facility. Not detailed blueprints, but enough to build a working tactical map. How many Wraith are we talking about? Palmer asked. Estimated 300 on station at any given time, Taylor answered. Plus genetic experiments in various stages human subjects. Hybrid creatures and possibly captive Wraith being studied. Chief did the math. 300 Wraith in an enclosed facility against a Spartan strike team supported by Atlantis personnel. Acceptable odds if they maintain surprise and overwhelming force. I'll lead the ground team, he said. 4 Spartans, Sheppard's team for expertise, and Ronan if he's willing. Willing? Ronan's grin was predatory. Try stopping me. I should go too, McKay interjected. You'll need someone who can identify the ZPM, interface with ancient technology, and override any security protocols. None of your Spartans have the ancient gene or understand. No, Sheppard cut him off. Rodney, you're brilliant. But this is a combat insertion into a hostile research facility. We need soldiers, not scientists. I'm going, McKay insisted stubbornly. You need me. He's right, Chief said, surprising everyone. Tactical necessity outweighs safety concerns. We can't afford to extract the wrong technology or waste time searching. McKay comes, but he stays in the protected center of the formation. McKay looked simultaneously pleased and terrified. Oh good, protected center. That's definitely where I want to be when the shooting starts. Lasky made the decision. We have 72 hours before the Wraith mobilize a significant fleet against us. That's Dr. Weir's intelligence estimate. We use that window to hit the research station, acquire the ZPM, and get the Infinity's drive operational. Chief, assemble your team. Colonel Sheppard, coordinate with our tactical officers. Commander Palmer, I want contingency plans for every scenario where this goes sideways. And when will we get the ZPM? Bradshaw asked. Then we find out if Ancient and Forerunner technology really are related, McKay said, his fear overshadowed by scientific excitement. And if I'm right, we have created the first hybrid drive system capable of crossing between galaxies in a fraction of the time either technology could manage alone. Chief caught the implication. We could get home. Eventually, yes. But first, McKay gestured at the star chart, at the Wraith facility waiting in hostile space. First, we have to survive stealing from space vampires. Ronan laughed a harsh, anticipatory sound. Best part of the plan. As the briefing dissolved into tactical planning, Chief found himself standing beside Taylor, both of them studying the facility's projected layout. Your people, she said quietly, they have fought wars like this before? Against enemies who see you as food? The Flood, Chief answered. Parasites that consumed entire civilizations. We burned worlds to stop them, and you won? We survived. That's the same thing in war. Taylor nodded slowly. The Wraith have ruled Pegasus for 10,000 years. They believe they cannot be defeated. Your arrival challenges that belief. Be prepared for them to fight with desperation rather than confidence. Chief checked his MA5D's magazine, a habitual gesture before combat. Good, desperate enemies make mistakes. So do overconfident ones, Spartan. He met her eyes, saw a warrior who'd lost her world, her people, everything to the enemy they were about to assault. Saw someone who kept fighting anyway. Then we'll be careful, he said. But we'll also be thorough. Taylor smiled grimly. Indeed, the agricultural colony of Rilan was dying when the Infinity's sensors detected it. Chief stood in the Pelican's troop bay, magnetic boots locked to the deck as the dropship screamed through Ryland's atmosphere. Through the open bay doors, he could see the planet below, fields of golden grain stretching to horizons, small settlements clustered around rivers, a civilization that reminded him painfully of harvest before the Covenant glassed it. Except Raylan wasn't being glassed. It was being culled. 2 minutes to LZ, the pilot called back. Colonel Sheppard, you seeing what I'm seeing? Sheppard stood at the opposite bay door, his P-90 held with casual competence that spoke of countless combat drops. Taylor and Ronan flanked him, while McKay sat strapped into a jump seat, looking like he regretted every decision that had led him to this moment. Wraith darts, Sheppard confirmed, his voice tight with controlled anger. Dozens of them. They're culling the population centers. Chief activated his armor's optical zoom, bringing the alien fighters into sharp focus. The darts moved in coordinated sweeps over the settlements, their culling beams sickly green energy that looked like corrupted light reaching down to the panicking crowds below. Where the beams touched humans, people simply vanished, dematerialized into the dart's storage matrices like so much cargo. How many people down there? Chief asked. Colony population was approximately 50,000, Taylor said quietly. Before the culling began, Ronan growled. Wraith have been at it for 2 hours. Maybe half that left now. Chief had seen atrocities. The Covenant's genocidal campaigns, the Flood's parasitic consumption, the Didact's attempts to compose humanity into digital slavery. But there was something particularly cold about the Wraith's approach, the methodical efficiency of predators harvesting livestock. No rage, no ideology, just feeding. Spartan Fireteam Majestic is inbound on Pelican 2. Palmer's voice crackled over the comm. Long swords have air superiority. Orders are to eliminate dart squadrons and prevent further culling. Rules of engagement are weapons-free. Finally, one of Chief's fellow Spartans, Spartan Thorne, said from across the bay. Been waiting to hit these things on the ground. The Pelican banked hard, giving Chief a clear view of the battlefield. 4 Wraith darts were making another pass over the largest settlement, their calling beams already activated. People ran screaming through streets. Children separated from parents, the elderly unable to flee fast enough. The beams found them, and they disappeared mid-stride, torn from reality to feed monsters. Something cold settled in Chief's chest. He'd spent 30 years fighting to protect humanity. This was why. "Pilot, get us close to those darts," he ordered. "Spartans, prepare for aerial engagement." "Chief, those fighters are moving at 400 kilometers per hour, McKay protested. "You can't possibly," Chief didn't answer. He simply stepped to the bay door, activated his armor's target tracking system, and raised his MA-5D assault rifle. The Mjolnir's neural interface fed him wind speed, target velocity, ballistic trajectory calculations, and firing solutions faster than conscious thought. The Pelican's pilot, a veteran who'd flown Chief through worse, understood immediately. She dove toward the darts, closing the distance to 300 meters while pulling lateral maneuvers to avoid return fire. Chief fired. The MA-5D's 7.62mm rounds weren't designed for anti-aircraft work. Against Covenant Banshees or even UNSC fighters, they'd be useless. But Wraith darts, as longsword pilots had discovered, had minimal armor. Their organic construction prioritized speed and regeneration over protection. The burst caught the lead dart across its port wing. The organic tissue shredded, biomechanical systems sparking as the fighter lost stability. It spiraled into a grain field, exploding in a spray of biological matter and green energy. The other darts scattered, breaking their culling pattern to engage the Pelican. Energy weapons, different from their culling beams, more focused and destructive, lanced toward the dropship. "Evasive!" Chief called unnecessarily. The pilot was already rolling, putting the Pelican's armored belly between the Spartans and incoming fire. Sheppard leaned out his bay door, the ancient rifle he called a Wraith stunner in hand. He fired 3 precise shots, each one striking a dart's cockpit. The energy pulses didn't destroy the fighters, but Chief saw them wobble as their pilots were incapacitated. "Nice shooting," Chief acknowledged. "Practice," Sheppard said. "Lots of practice." Above them, longswords screamed past in tight formation, their autocannons tearing through dart squadrons with mechanical precision. The space superiority fighters were operating in atmosphere not ideal, but manageable. And against the lighter darts, they were devastating. "Multiple dart kills," one longsword pilot reported. "Remaining fighters are braking for orbit. Should we pursue?" "Negative," Palmer ordered. "Stay in atmosphere. Protect the population centers." The Pelican touched down in Relan's main settlement, a town square surrounded by stone buildings that looked like they stood for generations. Survivors huddled in doorways and alleyways, staring at the UNSC dropship with expressions caught between hope and terror. Chief was first off the ramp, his boots hitting cobblestone streets that reminded him of colonial worlds from humanity's expansion era. Sheppard's team followed, then the other Spartans, Thorne, Matson, Grant, and Hoya. 8 supersoldiers and 4 Atlantis personnel, standing in a town square while the sky overhead still flickered with dart contrails and longsword vapor. A local and older man with a lined face and farmer's hands approached cautiously. He spoke in a language Chief didn't recognize, but the fear and desperate hope were universal. "Taylor," Sheppard said. The Athosian woman stepped forward, responding in the same language. The conversation was brief, urgent. When she turned back, her expression was grim. "The Wraith arrived 4 hours ago," she translated. 3 dart squadrons initially, then more. They've taken approximately 20,000 people. The survivors fled to shelters underground, but the Wraith will return. "They always return to finish the culling. Not this time," Chief said. Ronan was already scanning the settlement's perimeter, his energy pistol held ready. "We need defensive positions. When the darts come back." "They won't come back," Chief interrupted. He activated his comm. "Captain Lasky, Chief. Requesting fire mission coordinates. We have a town full of civilians and limited defensive options. I want Archer missiles on standby for any Wraith vessels that enter atmosphere." "Acknowledged, Chief," Lasky replied. We're tracking the darts that retreated. They've rendezvoused with a hive ship in orbit, the same one we damaged in the initial engagement. It's launching reinforcements. McKay, who'd been scanning the area with an ancient scanner, looked up with alarm. Reinforcements? How many? 200 darts, and the hive ship is descending into upper atmosphere. They're committed to finishing this culling. The silence that followed was heavy. 200 darts. Even with longsword support and Spartan ground forces, those odds were impossible for protecting 50,000 civilians scattered across multiple settlements. Captain, Chief said carefully, can the Infinity engage the hive ship? Not without leaving Atlantis exposed. We're the only thing preventing 3 other hive ships from assaulting the city. If we break formation, Chief understood. Tactical calculus. Save this colony or protect Atlantis and its expedition personnel. The math was cold but clear, except Chief had never accepted impossible odds. Sir, I need one thing, he said. Give me the hive ship's exact position and trajectory. A pause. Then Lasky's voice carried understanding, the kind that came from knowing a soldier was about to do something crazy. Sending coordinates now. Chief's HUD populated with targeting data. The hive ship was 60 kilometers up, descending slowly while launching darts. It was enormous. 3 kilometers of organic warship carrying thousands of Wraith. It was also vulnerable. Sheppard, Chief said, turning to the colonel. Your puddle jumpers. They have cloaking technology and ancient drone weapons? Sheppard's eyes widened as he realized what Chief was planning. You want to assault a hive ship with a jumper. I want to kill a hive ship with a jumper, Chief corrected. You said the drones can penetrate Wraith hulls. If we can get close enough, launch directly into their launch base while they're deploying darts, the explosion would chain react through their fighter storage. McKay finished, his scientific mind already running the calculations. Catastrophic structural failure. The hive ship would tear itself apart from internal detonations. It's insane, Sheppard said. It's efficient, Ronan countered, grinning. Taylor looked at Chief with something like respect. You would risk yourself to save a colony you do not know? People who are not your own? They're human, Chief said simply. That's enough. Sheppard studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, Spartan. Let's go kill a hive ship. But I'm piloting. The jumper needs someone with the ancient gene to operate the drones, and unlike you, I've actually flown suicide runs before. I'll go too, Taylor said. Someone needs to operate the rear weapons if we're pursued. And me, McKay added reluctantly. Someone has to make sure the drone calculations are precise. A meter off and we blow ourselves up instead of them. Chief looked at his fellow Spartans. Thorn, you're in command on the ground. Protect these people. If we fail, you won't fail, Chief, Thorn interrupted. You never do. 10 minutes later, Chief stood in the puddle jumper's rear compartment as Sheppard lifted off, the ancient craft's cloak engaging immediately. Through the forward viewport, he could see the hive ship growing larger, a massive organic monstrosity that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns like a diseased whale. Sensors show they haven't detected us, McKay reported from the station. The cloak is holding. But the moment we fire, we light up like a Christmas tree. Then we make the first shot count, Sheppard said, his hands moving across the ancient control interface with practiced ease. The jumper accelerated, closing the distance at speeds that would have torn apart conventional craft. Chief watched the darts launch from the hive ship's bays, dozens of fighters streaming out in coordinated waves, heading toward Relon to finish the culling. Each one carried capacity for maybe 50 humans, stored like data in some nightmarish organic computer. He thought about the people below. The farmer who'd approached them, the children hiding in shelters. 50,000 humans who'd never asked to be prey. 30 seconds, Sheppard announced. Drones are armed and locked. McKay, please tell me your calculations are perfect. They're better than perfect. Oh God, we're really doing this. Taylor? I am ready, the Athosian warrior said calmly. Chief checked his MA5D one final time. If the jumper was breached, if they had to fight hand-to-hand inside a Wraith hive ship, he wanted to be ready. 10 seconds. Sheppard counted down. Chief, fair warning, this is going to get bumpy. The jumper dove directly toward the hive ship's largest launch bay, a gaping maw in the organic hull that was actively deploying darts. The opening was easily large enough for the small ancient craft, and for a moment, Chief had the surreal experience of flying inside a living ship. The interior was nightmare made manifest. Organic corridors pulsed with bioluminescent veins. Wraith technicians turned in surprise as the jumper materialized, the cloak dropping as Sheppard activated the weapons. Firing! The ancient drones launched golden energy projectiles that looked almost beautiful as they streaked through the hive ship's interior. They struck fuel storage, fighter staging areas, and critical structural supports with surgical precision. The explosions started small. Then they cascaded. Go, go, go. McKay shouted as the hive ship's interior erupted in chains of fire and atmospheric venting. Sheppard pulled the jumper into a hard turn, racing back toward the launch bay as explosions chased them. Wraith personnel were torn into vacuum, structural supports collapsed, and fighter fuel ignited in massive fireballs. They cleared the launch bay with seconds to spare. Behind them, the hive ship's entire port side collapsed inward, secondary explosions rippling through its length as internal systems failed catastrophically. It's working. McCass stared at his readouts. The chain reaction is propagating through their power distribution network. The hive ship is. The Wraith vessel broke apart. 3 kilometers of organic warship tore itself to pieces in a display of fire and escaping atmosphere that lit Rilon's sky like a second sun. Debris rained down, burning up in atmosphere or crashing into oceans kilometers from any settlement. Hive ship destroyed, Sheppard reported, his voice carrying amazement. All darts are reverting to autonomous control. They're scattered and disorganized. Longswords mop them up, Palmer's voice came through. Nice work, people. As the jumper descended back toward Ryland's settlement, Chief looked down at the town square where Spartans stood guard over huddled civilians. They'd saved maybe 30,000 people, the survivors who hadn't been culled. 20,000 were still gone, stored in darts or already dead. Taylor must have read something in his posture. You saved many lives today, Spartan. The Wraith would have taken them all. 20,000 is too many, Chief said quietly. Yes, she agreed. It always is. The jumper landed and Chief emerged to find the settlement transformed. People were emerging from shelters, staring at the Spartans and Atlantis personnel with expressions that mixed grief for the lost with desperate gratitude for the saved. The farmer approached again, speaking urgently to Taylor. She translated. He asks if you are the ancestors the legends speak of. The ones who would return to free humanity from the Wraith. Chief looked at Sheppard, who shrugged. We usually tell them we're just explorers from Earth, but after today... He gestured at the burning debris still falling from orbit. Maybe we're a bit more than that now. Chief knew better. They weren't saviors. They were soldiers doing what soldiers did, holding the line, protecting civilians, making impossible choices to save as many as possible. But if these people needed hope, needed to believe that humanity could finally fight back against 10,000 years of predation. Tell him, Chief said to Taylor. The Earth remembers Pegasus. And we're here to help. The UNSC Pelican cut through the void between stars, its active camouflage rendering it nearly invisible against the cosmic backdrop. Chief sat in the troop bay, running final equipment checks alongside 7 other Spartans and the Atlantis team. The mission clock read 18 hours since the Relon culling, 18 hours of intelligence gathering, tactical planning, and preparing for an operation that would have been considered suicide by conventional military standards. The Wraith Research Station, designated M7R227, grew larger in the viewport, a sprawling construct of organic architecture that looked like a tumor growing in space. Unlike hive ships' elegant curves, the station was bloated and asymmetric function over form, built for science rather than war. Sensor pods and communication arrays sprouted from its hull like diseased growths, and Chief could see Wraith darts patrolling in loose formations around the perimeter. Final approach in 5 minutes, the Pelican pilot reported. Active camo is holding, But once you breach that hull, they'll know we're here. Understood, Chief replied. He looked across the bay at his team. Spartans Thorne, Matson, Grant, and Hoya, all Spartan Ives, veterans of the post-war conflicts against Covenant remnants and Promethean forces. Good soldiers, but not like him and the other Ayas. They hadn't been forged in childhood, hadn't spent decades becoming living weapons. Still, they'd proven themselves capable. Beside them sat Sheppard, Ronan, and Taylor. McKay was strapped into his seat, tablet clutched like a lifeline, running thermal scans of the station's interior. The scientist had been uncharacteristically quiet during the flight, and Chief suspected he was finally processing the reality of assaulting a Wraith facility. Station layout confirmed, McKay said, projecting a hologram from his tablet. The image showed the research station's internal structure, a maze of organic corridors, laboratory chambers, and holding cells. The ZPM should be in the primary power distribution center here. He highlighted a section near the station's core. It's powering their genetic sequencing equipment and containment systems. Containment for what? Grant asked. Experiments. Taylor's voice carried barely controlled anger. The Wraith conduct genetic research on human subjects. They seek to improve their feeding efficiency, create hybrid warriors, understand what makes some humans resistant to their culling beams. The subjects, they do not survive the process. Ronan's knuckles whitened around his energy pistol's grip. Been inside one of these stations before. What we see in those labs, it'll make you want to kill every Wraith in the galaxy. That's already the plan, Thorne said darkly. Chief studied the layout. Primary objective is the ZPM. Secondary objective is intelligence, any data on Wraith tactical operations, fleet deployments, or research that could give us an advantage. Tertiary objective is destroying this facility completely. No one else gets experimented on here. Thermite charges are prepped, Matson confirmed, patting the demo pack on her armor. I can rig the power core to overload once we extract the ZPM. Whole station goes up. What about survivors? McKay asked. Human prisoners? The bay fell silent. Chief had considered this during planning. Wraith research stations held human test subjects, people stolen from cullings, kept alive for experiments that violated every convention of warfare. Extracting prisoners would complicate the mission, slow them down, potentially compromise their escape. But they were human. And Chief had never left people behind if he could help it. We find prisoners, we extract them, he said. Sheppard, can Atlantis support emergency medical for trauma victims? Dr. Keller's already preparing, Sheppard confirmed. We've treated Wraith experimentation subjects before. It's not pretty, but we can help them. 2 minutes to breach point, the pilot announced. Chief stood, maglucking his boots as the bay depressurized. The Spartans and Atlantis team moved to the deployment door, weapons ready. Through the viewport, Chief could see the research station's hull pulsing organic tissue that looked disturbingly alive. Sensor scans had identified a docking port that was currently inactive, minimal security, perfect breach point. Pelican will maintain position for rapid extraction, Chief said. On my mark, we breach, secure the corridor, and advance to the power center. Expect heavy resistance once they detect us. Wraith regenerate damage quickly, so double tap everything. Headshots are most effective. The Spartans nodded. They'd studied Wraith physiology during the flight-enhanced durability. Rapid healing, stunner weapons that fed on bioelectric energy, claws that could tear through combat armor with enough force. Dangerous, but not invincible. 30 seconds, the pilot called. Chief activated his armor's mag boots and stepped to the deployment door. Behind him, the team stacked up in perfect formation, Spartans interspersed with Atlantis personnel, each covering sectors and overlapping fields of fire. This was what they did. This was what they were built for. The Pelican's door hissed open to vacuum. Chief jumped. The 15-meter gap between dropship and station vanished in seconds. Chief's boots hit the organic hull with magnetic contact, and he immediately began cutting through the exterior with a plasma torch. The material resisted tougher than it looked, but UNSC cutting tools were designed to breach Covenant hulls. This was easier. The breach opened, and Chief dropped through into a darkened corridor. His motion tracker immediately lit up with contacts, 3 Wraith guards turning toward the intrusion, their feeding hands already raised. Chief fired first. The MA-5D's suppressed burst caught the nearest Wraith in the head, the 7.62mm rounds punching through its skull and dropping it instantly. The second Wraith lunged with supernatural speed, but Thorn was already there, his combat knife plunging into the creature's chest and twisting. The third tried to activate an alarm panel, but Ronan's energy blast disintegrated its arm and half its torso. "Corridor secure," Chief reported as the rest of the team dropped through. "McKay, which direction?" The scientist consulted his tablet, looking pale even in the red-tinted lighting of the Wraith station. "Forward 300 meters, then down 2 levels. The power center should be... Oh God, what is that?" Chief followed McKay's gaze to a side chamber visible through translucent organic walls. Inside, humans floated in suspension tubes, dozens of them, unconscious and connected to biomechanical apparatus that pulsed with sickly green light. Some showed obvious genetic modifications, elongated limbs, altered bone structure, integration with Wraith technology. Others looked pristine, untouched, waiting their turn. Taylor's breath caught. "The test subjects. We'll come back for them," Chief said. "First the ZPM, then we evacuate prisoners. Then we destroy this place." They moved through the corridors with lethal efficiency. More Wraith appeared, guards in organic armor, scientists in flowing robes, technicians who tried to flee but were cut down by precise fire. The Spartans fought with mechanical precision, while Sheppard's team brought tactical knowledge of Wraith layouts and weak points. Ronan was a whirlwind of violence, his energy pistol dropping Wraith with every shot, his combat knife finishing wounded enemies before they could regenerate. "Alarms triggered," Madsen announced as klaxons began wailing through the station's organic corridors. "They know we're here," Good Chief said. "Let them come to us." They reached a massive organic chamber that pulsed with bioluminescent veins, the power distribution center. At its heart, suspended in a crystalline containment field, hung a 0-point module. The device was beautiful in its simplicity, a cylindrical crystal maybe half a meter long, glowing with soft golden light that represented power generation at quantum scales. Ancient engineering at its finest. These were soldiers, dressed in black armor and carrying organic rifles that looked like they'd been grown rather than manufactured. Do you know how rare these are? Their faces were pale, expressionless, and utterly focused on killing the intruders. Chief spun to see Wraith pouring into the chamber, not the handful they'd encountered before, green energy bolts that sizzled through the air. One caught Grant's shields, and the Spartan 4 grunted as his energy barrier flared and failed, the follow-up shot catching him in the shoulder. He went down hard, and Thorn dragged him behind cover. Chief advanced into the Wraith formation, his MA-5D firing in controlled bursts. Headshots, center mass, anything that would put them down before they regenerated. Behind him, the other Spartans laid down suppressing fire while Sheppard's team targeted priority threats with their P-90s and energy weapons. A Wraith soldier got too close and Chief saw its feeding hand reach for his chest. The Mjolnir armor's shields absorbed the initial contact, but he felt the energy drain even through the hardened systems. He responded by driving his combat knife into the Wraith's throat, then firing point-blank into its skull. "McKay!" Chief shouted over the chaos. "How long?" The containment field is ancient technology interfacing with Wraith biomechanics. McKay was frantically working at a control console that looked like it was made of bone and sinew. "I need to decode the security protocols without frying myself or the ZPM or, how long? 2 minutes, maybe 3. Chief assessed the tactical situation. 24 Wraith dead or dying, but more were coming. His motion tracker showed contacts converging from multiple corridors, probably every guard on the station responding to the breach. They didn't have 2 minutes, much less 3. "Spartans, defensive perimeter," he ordered. "Nothing gets through to McKay." The Spartans formed a ring around the scientist, their shields and armor creating a mobile fortress. Wraith assault continued, wave after wave of soldiers throwing themselves at the defensive position. Chief fired until his MA5D ran dry, reloaded, fired again. The Spartans' superior armor and training let them hold against numbers that would have overwhelmed conventional soldiers. But Chief saw shields failing, armor scoring, blood mixing with the organic residue coating the floor. Ronan fought like a demon, his energy pistol in one hand and a captured Wraith rifle in the other. When ammunition ran out, he used the weapons as clubs, then his fists, then his teeth. Taylor moved like water, her P90 dropping targets with precision while she used captured Wraith stunners to disable enemies for finishing shots. "Got it!" McKay shouted. The containment field flickered and died, the ZPM dropping into his hands. "I've got the ZPM. And oh my god, it's beautiful, and we need to leave right now. Madsen, rig the charges!" Chief ordered. "Everyone else, fall back to the breach point." The Spartans began a fighting withdrawal, covering each other's movements as they backed toward the corridor they'd entered through. Madsen stayed behind, placing thermite charges on the power conduits and rigging them to the ZPM's former containment system. "Charges set," she called. 5-minute countdown. "This place is going to—" The wall exploded. Not from their explosives, but from something punching through from an adjacent chamber. The organic material shredded like tissue paper as a figure emerged, massive, easily 8 feet tall, its body a nightmare fusion of human and Wraith physiology. It had 4 arms, each ending in feeding appendages, and its face was a horror of genetic engineering gone wrong. This was what the Wraith had been creating in their labs, a supersoldier designed for enhanced feeding and combat. The hybrid roared a sound that combined human vocal cords with Wraith's alien harmonics and charged directly at Chief. The hybrid moved with speed that violated physics, 8 feet of genetically engineered nightmare crossing the chamber in a heartbeat. Chief barely managed to dodge the first strike, 4 feeding hands passing through the space where his head had been. The creature's claws gouged deep furrows in the organic floor, and Chief saw green energy crackling around its palms feeding mechanisms, amplified beyond anything natural Wraith possessed. "What the hell is that?" Thorne shouted, firing a full burst into the creature's back. The rounds hit, penetrated, and the hybrid barely noticed. Its regeneration was instantaneous, wounds closing as fast as bullets could make them. It spun toward Thorne with impossible agility, and Chief saw the Spartan 4's eyes widen behind his visor as those 4 arms reached for him. Chief slammed into the hybrid from the side, using his full augmented strength and Mjolnir's powered servos. The impact would have crushed a normal Wraith. This thing just stumbled, turned, and backhanded Chief across the chamber. He hit the wall hard enough to crack the organic material, his shields flaring to 0. "Spartan!" Taylor fired her P90 at the hybrid's head, trying to draw its attention. The creature ignored her, focusing on Chief with what might have been recognition or hunger. It spoke, its voice a distorted mix of human and Wraith harmonics. "Strong. Much life. Feed." Ronan charged in, his combat knife driving toward the hybrid's spine. The blade sank deep, and the Satyrdin twisted it viciously. The hybrid screamed, 2 of its arms reaching back to grab Ronan and throw him like a toy. The warrior crashed into Hoya, both men going down in a tangle, Chief's shields recharged. He rolled to his feet, ejecting his spent MA5D magazine and loading his last one. "McKay, weaknesses! How do we kill this thing?" "It's a genetic hybrid." McKay was backing toward the exit, the ZPM clutched protectively. Standard Wraith physiology enhanced with human genetics for strength and redundant organs for durability. You'd need to destroy the primary feeding organs or cause catastrophic trauma to... The hybrid lunged at McKay. Sheppard intercepted, his ancient rifle firing point blank into the creature's chest. The energy bolt burned through organic tissue, creating a fist-sized wound that immediately began regenerating. But it bought seconds, and Sheppard used them to bodily shove McKay toward the corridor. "Go! Get that ZPM to the Pelican." "But that's an order, Rodney." Chief didn't wait for McKay to argue. He charged the hybrid again, this time with his combat knife drawn. The blade was 8 inches of molecular-honed ceramic that could cut through Covenant armor. He drove it into the creature's side, aiming for where Wraith physiology suggested major organs clustered. The hybrid caught his arm mid-strike. Its feeding hand clamped around Chief's wrist, and even through Mjolnir's armor, he felt it. Energy drain. Life force being pulled from him like water through a sieve. His HUD flashed warnings, biometric readings dropping, cellular deterioration detected, emergency countermeasures engaging. Chief had been shot, stabbed, blown up, and nearly killed 100 ways across 30 years of combat. This was worse. This was watching years of his life being consumed in seconds, feeling his body age and wither under that alien touch. He did the only thing he could. He leaned into it. The hybrid expected resistance, expected prey to pull away. Instead, Chief drove forward, using the creature's grip as an anchor point. His free hand came up with a fragmentation grenade, pulled pin already, and he jammed it into the wound Sheppard's rifle had created. Fire in the hole! Chief twisted away, breaking the hybrid's grip with pure, desperate strength. The grenade detonated inside the creature's chest cavity, the explosion contained by its own body mass. The hybrid stumbled, its regeneration trying to cope with massive internal trauma, organs rupturing faster than they could heal. But it still didn't die. Concentrated fire. Chief ordered, and every weapon in the chamber opened up simultaneously. A5D assault rifles, P90 submachine guns, Ronan's energy pistol, Sheppard's ancient rifle, all pouring rounds and energy into the staggering hybrid. Madsen's grenade launcher added high explosive rounds that tore chunks from its body. The hybrid's regeneration faltered. Too much damage too fast, even its enhanced biology couldn't compensate. It took one more step toward Chief, 4 feeding hands reaching out with desperate hunger, then collapsed face first onto the deck. "Is it dead?" Grant asked, his wounded shoulder leaking blood through his armor's damaged seal. Ronan walked over and put 3 more energy blasts into the hybrid's skull. "Now it is." Chief's HUD showed concerning readings. The feeding had drained him. He'd lost years, maybe a decade of life in those seconds of contact. Dr. Keller could treat it, reverse some of the damage if they acted quickly, but right now they had more immediate concerns. 2 minutes until charges detonate, Madsen reported. "We need to move," the prisoners, Taylor said urgently. "We cannot leave them to die." Chief ran the math. 2 minutes to reach the breach point. The suspension chambers were 30 seconds in the opposite direction. If they split up, if they moved fast. "Thorne, Grant, Hoya, get McKay and the ZPM to the Pelican," Chief ordered. "Everyone else with me. We extract as many prisoners as possible." "Move!" The team split. Chief led Madsen, Ronan, Taylor, and Sheppard toward the laboratory chambers they'd passed earlier, their boots pounding against organic deck plating as the countdown ticked in everyone's HUD. They burst into the lab to find dozens of suspension tubes containing human subjects in various states of experimentation. Some were conscious, eyes wide with terror. Others floated unconscious, their bodies bearing modifications that made Chief's stomach turn extra limbs, integrated wraith-feeding organs, genetic restructuring that barely left them human. Release mechanisms. Taylor was already at the nearest console, her fingers flying over the biomechanical controls. "Sheppard, help me!" The colonel joined her, using his ancient gene advantage to interface with the stolen technology. Suspension tubes began opening, spilling their occupants onto the deck in puddles of nutrient fluid. Chief and the Spartans caught the falling prisoners, keeping them from injuring themselves. Most were barely conscious, traumatized beyond words. One young woman grabbed Chief's arm with desperate strength, her eyes meeting his visor. "Please," she whispered in accented English. "Don't leave me here." "Never," Chief promised. 90 seconds. Madsen called out. "We have 30 people here," Sheppard shouted. "No way we can carry them all in time." Ronan was already lifting 2 prisoners over his massive shoulders. "Then we carry what we can and run faster." They did exactly that. Each person grabbed prisoners. Chief took 3 across his shoulders using his armor's enhanced strength. Madsen and Sheppard took 2 each. Taylor and Ronan loaded themselves with victims. The ones who could walk, They pushed ahead, shouting encouragement and directions. The run back to the breach point was nightmare logistics. Wraith guards tried to intercept, but Chief didn't slow. He just fired one-handed while running, trusting his armor's stabilization to keep his aim true. Behind them, the station's organic walls were already beginning to bulge and crack, as the thermite charges compromised structural integrity. 30 seconds. They reached the breach point to find the Pelican's bay doors open, Thorn and the other Spartans reaching out to pull prisoners aboard. Chief practically threw his 3 passengers into the dropship, then turned back to help Taylor with hers. "Everyone's loaded!" The pilot shouted. "We are out of time!" "Go!" Chief jumped for the Pelican, his mag boots barely catching the deck as the dropship pulled away from the station. Sheppard tumbled in behind him, and Ronan was last aboard, hanging onto the bay door's frame as the Pelican's engines screamed to full thrust. The research station exploded. The thermite charges ignited the power core, which fed back through every energy conduit in the facility. The organic structure couldn't contain the cascading overloads. It burst like an overripe fruit, sections tearing away and tumbling through space in a debris field that glittered with escaping atmosphere and biological matter. Through the Pelican's viewport, Chief watched the station die. Somewhere in that wreckage were dozens more prisoners they couldn't save. Wraith scientists whose research was finally ended, and the hybrid abomination that had nearly killed him. All prisoners accounted for. Dr. Keller's voice came through the com from Atlantis. Medical teams standing by. "Chief, I'm seeing concerning biometric readings from you. That energy drain affected your cellular structure. I need you in the infirmary as soon as you dock." "Acknowledged," Chief said, though he didn't plan to let medical slow him down. Not with a war still to fight. McKay sat in the troop bay, the ZPM cradled in his lap like it was made of glass. Despite the terror of the mission, his expression was pure scientific joy. "Do you know what this means? With this power source, I can stabilize the Infinity's slipspace drive, maybe even enhance it beyond original specifications. We could save it for the engineering report," Sheppard interrupted, but he was smiling. "Nice work in there, Rodney. I nearly got eaten by a 4-armed feeding monster. But thank you." Chief looked around the Pelican's bay, 3 Spartans wounded, but alive. Sheppard's team exhausted but intact. 30 human prisoners rescued from nightmare experiments, being tended to by medical personnel. 1 ZPM secured. 1 research station destroyed. Mission accomplished. But as the Pelican approached the Infinity's hangar, Chief's tactical awareness nagged at him. The hybrid they'd fought, that wasn't a field prototype. That was a finished product, ready for deployment. Which meant the Wraith had more of them somewhere, maybe dozens, maybe hundreds. And if the Wraith were creating enhanced feeding soldiers, it suggested something worse. They were preparing for a major offensive. Not the scattered cullings and skirmishes Atlantis had faced for 5 years, but a coordinated assault meant to end the human threat permanently. "Captain Lasky," Chief said over the comm. "Request emergency briefing once we dock. I have tactical intelligence that can't wait." "Acknowledged. What's your assessment?" Chief watched the prisoners being stabilized by medical teams, saw the exhaustion in his fellow soldiers' postures, thought about the hybrid's impossible strength and the desperation in the Wraith's genetic experiments. "Sir," he said carefully, "I think we just kicked a hornet's nest. And the hornets are about to hit back harder than Atlantis has ever seen." Through the Pelican's cockpit, he could see Atlantis in the distance, beautiful, ancient, floating serenely on an alien ocean. And beyond it, the Infinity stood guard, her weapons ready, her shields charged. 2 human outposts in a galaxy controlled by predators who dominated Pegasus for 10,000 years. The Wraith had learned humans could fight back. Now they would learn whether humans could win. Chief suspected they were about to find out. The tactical briefing room aboard the Infinity was standing room only. Captain Lasky presided from the head of the conference table, with Chief and Commander Palmer flanking him. Dr. Weir represented Atlantis alongside Sheppard, McKay, and Taylor. Holographic displays floated above the table, showing real-time sensor data from across the Pegasus Galaxy. None of it was good. Intelligence summary, Lasky began, his voice carrying the weight of incoming crisis. In the 48 hours since we destroyed the research station, Wraith communications traffic has increased by 300%. Our intercepts suggest they're mobilizing multiple fleets from across Pegasus. McKay manipulated the display, highlighting subspace signatures. We redetecting hyperspace windows opening in 17 different systems, all of them former feeding grounds or strategic positions. The Wraith aren't just angry. They're coordinating. That's never happened before. Not on this scale. How many ships? Dr. Weir asked, though her expression suggested she already feared the answer. Conservative estimate? 60 hive ships. Possibly more. McKay's fingers trembled slightly as he zoomed in on sensor returns. They're forming 3 separate fleets. One appears to be... Hit them? Dr. Weir looked incredulous. Master Chief, we're talking about engaging multiple hive ships simultaneously across different sectors. Yes, Chief said simply. The Infinity has slipspace capability even damaged. We can microjump between systems faster than Wraith hyperspace. We appear, eliminate priority targets, jump out before they can respond in force. Asymmetric warfare. Make them afraid to concentrate. Sheppard was already nodding, following the logic. Guerrilla tactics. Hit and run. We've done it before with puddle jumpers, but never with anything that had the Infinity's firepower. If we can take out enough hive ships quickly enough, we force them to either commit everything to finding us leaving their fleets scattered or consolidate defensively, which gives human worlds breathing room. It's risky, Palmer said. Every jump strains the slipspace drive. McCaw said he could stabilize it with the ZPM, but not repair it completely. We could end up stranded mid-jump. I've installed the ZPM, McKay interjected. The integration is holding. It's actually fascinating. The ancient power source is resonating with the Forerunner components in ways that suggest they might have shared fundamental energy theories, and I've managed to create a feedback loop that... Doctor, Lasky interrupted gently. Will it work? McKay deflated slightly. Probably, maybe. 70% confidence that you won't explode or end up in another galaxy. That's actually pretty good for experimental cross-technology hybridization. 70%, Lasky repeated. Then he smiled, a tight, dangerous expression. I made jumps on worse odds. What's our tactical plan? Chief highlighted the Wraith fleet moving toward human colonies. First priority, this fleet, 20 hive ships targeting population centers. We jump in system, engage with maximum firepower, prioritize ship kills over tactical positioning. The goal isn't to win a battle, it's to bloody them badly enough that they reconsider genocide. And when they send reinforcements? We're asked. We're already gone. Next target is the fleet heading for Atlantis. We hit them while they're still in transit, before they can establish siege positions. Reduce their numbers, force them to slow down and consolidate. Meanwhile, Sheppard added, understanding the strategy, Atlantis fortifies defenses and evacuates allied populations through the gate. When the Wraith finally arrive at the city, they're facing full shields, armed populations, and a pissed-off ancient outpost instead of scattered settlements. Taylor studied the tactical display with a warrior's eye. This plan requires the Infinity to fight 3 separate engagements against superior numbers. Even with your technological advantages, the risk of catastrophic damage is significant. Every plan has risks, Chief said. But the alternative is watching them exterminate human worlds while we hide behind Atlantis' shields. That's not acceptable. The room fell quiet. Chief saw the calculation happening behind everyone's eyes, the math of war. The terrible algebra of acceptable losses and strategic necessity. This was the moment where leaders either committed to action or chose preservation. Lasky stood. Commander Palmer, prep all combat systems. I want Mac guns loaded, archer pods at maximum capacity, and longsword squadrons ready for rapid deployment. We jump in 2 hours. Sir Palmer's acknowledgement carried grim satisfaction. Dr. Weir, coordinate with your people. Get those evacuations started. When we've bloodied the Wraith enough, Atlantis needs to be ready to serve as the last fortress in Pegasus. Weir nodded, her diplomat's composure cracking slightly to show the exhaustion beneath. We'll be ready. And Captain, thank you for not abandoning us. We're all human, Lasky said simply. That makes this our fight too. As the briefing dissolved into tactical planning, Chief found himself standing beside Sheppard at the holographic display. The colonel was studying the Wraith fleet positions with the focused intensity of someone who spent 5 years fighting impossible odds. You know we might not survive this, Sheppard said quietly. I've been in worse situations, Chief replied. Name one. Halo, flood outbreak, Covenant armada, and a superweapon about to fire and kill everything in the galaxy. Stopped it with 3 other soldiers and an AI. Sheppard laughed, a short, sharp sound of genuine amusement. Okay, you win. But Chief? If we do survive this, remind me to introduce you to our quartermaster. You and your Spartans have been going through ammunition, like it's going out of style. And I want to know what kind of requisition forms I need to file to justify fought 60 hive ships. Just right, defense of humanity, Chief said. It usually covers everything. 2 hours later, the Infinity's bridge hummed with pre-combat tension. Every station was manned, every system charged and ready. Through the forward viewports, Atlantis hung in space, her shields shimmering with power drawn from the remaining ZPMs. Smaller craft moved around her puddle jumpers ferrying evacuees. Daedalus-class ships positioning for defense. Final systems check, Lasky ordered. Weapons hot and ready, Tactical reported. All longsword squadrons prepared for launch. Engineering reports slipspace drive at 85%. Bradshaw's voice came through. The ZPM integration is holding. Recommend short jumps, under 50 light-years per transition to minimize strain. Navigation has jump coordinates locked. The nav officer confirmed. First target system is designated Phoenix 7. 20 Wraith hive ships confirmed in system. Engaging human colony. Chief stood at his position beside the captain's chair, his Mjolnir armor freshly repaired and rearmed. Around the bridge, Spartans manned tactical stations alongside UNSC crew. This was it, the moment where they either proved humanity could fight back against Pegasus's ancient predators, or died trying. Colonel Sheppard, Lasky said over the comm channel. Atlantis is yours to defend. Don't let them take our only safe harbor. We'll be here when you get back, Captain. Sheppard's voice carried confidence Chief suspected was half genuine, half bravado. Try not to scratch the paint too badly. No promises. Infinity out. Lasky settled into his command chair and looked at Chief. The Spartan met his captain's eyes, and nodded once, a silent acknowledgement between soldiers who understood what came next. All hands battle stations, Lasky announced shipwide. We are engaging Wraith forces across multiple combat zones. This will be the largest naval action in UNSC history. The enemy has numbers. We have firepower, training, and the will to protect every human in this galaxy. Make them regret waking up. Make them remember that Earth doesn't abandon its own. The bridge crew's response was instantaneous, every officer sitting straighter, every hand steady on their controls. This was what the UNSC had trained for during 27 years fighting the Covenant. Impossible odds, genocidal enemies. The survival of humanity hanging in the balance. Chief felt the familiar calm settle over him, the battle focus that had carried him through 3 decades of combat. He checked his MA5D1 final time, verified his armor systems were green, and prepared for what came next. Navigation, Lasky said quietly. Execute jump. The Infinity slipspace drive activated. Ancient Forerunner human technology harmonizing in ways that shouldn't work but did, tearing a rupture in spacetime and pulling the massive warship through. For a moment, reality became meaningless, a kaleidoscope of energies that existed between dimensions. Then the universe snapped back into focus and they emerged in hell. 20 Wraith hive ships surrounded a burning colony world. Dart fighters swarmed in clouds. And on the planet below, cities were dying under culling beams as the Wraith harvested every human they could find. "All weapons!" Lasky ordered, his voice cold with fury. "Fire!" The Infinity's opening salvo was apocalyptic. Both primary MAC guns fired simultaneously, their tungsten carbide rounds accelerating to 4% light speed before striking two hive ships at the formation center. The kinetic impacts were devastating 3,000-ton projectiles punching through organic hulls like paper, the shock waves propagating through biomechanical systems and tearing the ships apart from inside. One hive ship exploded outright, its power core rupturing catastrophically. The other listed sideways, trailing debris in atmosphere, mortally wounded. Direct hits. Tactical confirmed. 2 targets eliminated or disabled. Remaining 18 ships are breaking formation and targeting us. Longsword squadrons launch, Palmer ordered. Engage their fighter screen. Keep those darts away from the colony. The Infinity's ventral hangars opened, and 48 longsword interceptors streaked into the void. They moved in perfect formation, years of training against Covenant forces translating seamlessly to this new enemy. Within seconds, they engaged the dart swarms, autocannons and missiles tearing through the lighter Wraith fighters. Chief watched the tactical display update in real time. The Wraith were adapting faster than expected. Instead of swarming the Infinity directly, they were forming defensive shells around their remaining hive ships while continuing the culling operations planetside. They recognized the UNSC warship as the greater threat but weren't abandoning their mission. Cold, efficient, utterly ruthless. "They're not breaking off the culling," Chief observed. "They're willing to sacrifice ships to finish harvesting the population. Then we make the cost unacceptable," Lasky said. "Weapons, scatter pattern targeting, hit every hive ship simultaneously. I want them so busy defending themselves they can't focus on the planet." The Infinity's Archer missile pods erupted across its hull, hundreds of missiles launching in coordinated waves. The munitions spread across the battlespace, each one locked onto a different target. Point defense systems on the hive ships tried to intercept, but there were simply too many projectiles. Explosions rippled across organic hulls as high explosive warheads found their marks. 3 more hive ships took critical damage. One's propulsion systems failed, leaving it drifting. Another's weapons ports ruptured, green bioenergy venting into space. The third attempted to jump to hyperspace, but the drive destabilized. The ship tore itself apart mid-transition, leaving behind only expanding debris. Confirmed kills on 5 targets, Tactical reported, 13 hive ships remaining. "They're concentrating fire." The Wraith primary weapons, those organic energy projectors that looked like tumors grown across their hulls, opened up as one. Dozens of green energy bolts converged on the Infinity's position. The impacts were massive, each one carrying megawatts of destructive power. The Infinity's shields flared brilliantly but held. Forerunner enhanced energy barriers absorbed the punishment, dispersing the impacts across the protective field. Warning alarms sounded as shield strength dropped to 70%, then 60%, but the ship's defensive systems were designed for Forerunner hardlight and Covenant plasma. This was survivable. "Return fire," Lasky ordered calmly. "All weapons, continuous engagement." The Infinity became a fortress of destruction. MAC guns fired in sequence, primary, secondary, tertiary batteries all cycling through targets. Archer missiles launched in relentless waves. Point defense autocannons tracked and destroyed incoming dart fighters that got too close. The ship's ventral 50mm autocannons swept space around them, creating a kill zone where nothing organic could survive. Chief saw another hive ship Dimac round through its core, the organic structure collapsing like a deflating balloon. That made 6 destroyed, 13-8. The odds were improving, but the Wraith were learning. "Captain, detecting energy buildups on the remaining ships," sensors called out. "Power signatures spiking beyond normal combat levels. I think they're combining their weapon outputs." Chief understood immediately. Focused bombardment. "They're going to hit us with everything at once." "Evasive maneuvers," Lasky ordered. "Helm pattern Delta 9. The Infinity rolled all 5.7 kilometers of warship, moving with ponderous grace as its enhanced maneuvering thrusters fired. The ship wasn't designed for dogfighting, but Forerunner propulsion gave it nobility beyond normal human vessels. It wasn't enough. 8 hive ships fired simultaneously, their combined energy output creating a coherent beam of bioenergy that struck the Infinity-sized port shields like the fist of an angry god. The protective barriers held for 3 seconds, then collapsed. The overflow energy carved into the ship's armor plating, burning through ablative layers and scorching the hull beneath. Alarms shrieked across the bridge. "Shield failure on port sections!" Engineering shouted. "Hull breaches on decks 12 through 15. Damage control teams responding." "Casualty reports?" Lasky demanded. 18 dead, 43 wounded. "Sealing affected sections now." Chief felt the ship shudder beneath his boots. First blood. The Infinity had been damaged. People were dead UNSC personnel who survived the Covenant War only to die light years from home fighting aliens they'd never heard of 2 weeks ago. "Navigation," Lasky said, his voice harder now. "Prepare for emergency jump. We've done what we came to do." "Sir, the colony," someone protested, "is still dying while we fight here," Lasky interrupted. "But we've destroyed or disabled 8 hive ships. That's 8 fewer ships hunting humans across Pegasus. We're leaving before they can coordinate another focused bombardment." Chief agreed with the tactical assessment, but he also understood the moral weight. Below them on that burning colony world, humans were still being culled. Every second the Infinity remained meant more people saved from the feeding beams. Every second also risked the ship and everyone aboard. War was mathematics. Terrible, necessary mathematics. "Jump coordinates locked," navigation reported. "Next target system in 30 seconds. Longswords, return to ship," Palmer ordered. "All squadrons, immediate recall." The fighters broke from their engagement, burning hard for the Infinity's hangars. Most made it back. Chief's tactical display showed 3 icons wink out pilots who'd gotten too deep into dart formations, overwhelmed by numbers. 3 more names for the casualty list. 20 seconds to jump. Through the viewports, Chief saw the remaining Wraith hive ships repositioning, trying to line up another combined bombardment. They were adaptive. They'd learned the Infinity's shields could be overwhelmed. Next time would be worse. All longswords recovered. Hangar bays sealed. 10 seconds. The hive ships fired. Another coherent beam of bioenergy, this one even more powerful than the first, tracking toward the Infinity's wounded port side. "Jump!" Lasky commanded. Reality twisted. The slipspace drive activated and the Infinity vanished from normal space half a second before the Wraith bombardment would have struck. The energy beam passed harmlessly through empty space where the warship had been. Inside the slipspace rupture, Chief felt the familiar disorientation of faster-than-light travel. But something was different this time. The transition was rougher, the dimensional stresses more pronounced. The ZPM was working, but McKay had been right about the strain on hybridized systems. "Jump successful," navigation reported as they emerged in the next system. "We're in the Belkin sector." "Scanning for oh god." The tactical display updated, showing their new battlefield. 15 Wraith hive ships were in formation around a small ice world. But unlike the previous engagement, these ships weren't culling. They were positioned defensively, weapons already charging as if they'd been expecting the Infinity's arrival. "It's a trap," Chief said immediately. "They predicted we'd hit multiple fleets. They were waiting. All ships are targeting us," Tactical confirmed. "Energy signatures indicate they're preparing coordinated fire. Estimate 10 seconds until jump again." Lasky ordered. "Get us out of here. Drive needs 30 seconds to cycle." Engineering protested. "The ZPM integration requires. We don't have 30 seconds." Chief watched the tactical countdown. The Wraith were firing in 8 seconds. The slipspace drive needed 30 to safely jump. That left a 22-second gap where the Infinity would be a stationary target against 15 prepared enemies. Mathematics. Terrible mathematics. All power to forward shields, Lasky commanded. Angle the ship bow forward. Put our thickest armor between them and us. UNSC guns fire at will make them flinch. The Infinity rotated, presenting its armored prow to the enemy fleet. Both primary Macs fired, the massive rounds streaking toward hive ships that were already evading. One target took a glancing hit, its hull cracking but not failing. The other round missed entirely. The Wraith had learned to anticipate the weapons. They're firing. 15 hive ships unleashed their full arsenals simultaneously. The volume of bioenergy was staggering, a green wave of destructive force that seemed to fill space itself. It crashed against the Infinity's forward shields like an ocean against a seawall. The shields held for 5 seconds. Then they failed and raw energy hammered into the ship's armored hull. The bridge lights flickered as power systems strained. Chief felt the deck tilt beneath him as the ship's artificial gravity fluctuated. Around him, crew stations sparked and failed, damage reports flooding in faster than anyone could process them. Hull breaches on multiple decks, someone shouted over the alarms. Reactor 3 is offline. Casualties. Jump drive ready. Engineering called out. Jumping now. The Infinity tore itself back into slipspace, fleeing the ambush with wounds that would have crippled a lesser vessel. Inside the dimensional rupture, emergency lights painted the bridge red, and the smell of burning electronics filled the air. Damage report, Lasky ordered, his calm finally cracking slightly. Commander Palmer read from her tactical screen, her expression grim. 63 dead, over 200 wounded. Hull breaches on 22 decks. Mac Gun 2 is offline, targeting systems destroyed. Archer pod capacity down to 40%. And Captain, the slipspace drive. Mach's hybrid integration held, but the Forerunner components are showing critical stress. Engineering estimates we have maybe 2 more jumps before catastrophic failure. 2 more jumps. They'd planned for at least 5 more engagements across 3 Wraith fleets. Lasky was quiet for a moment, studying the damage assessments. Then he looked at Chief. Your assessment, Master Chief. Can we continue the mission? Chief ran the numbers. They destroyed or disabled 13 hive ships across 2 engagements. That was significant damage to Wraith forces, but not enough to change the strategic situation. The enemy had proven they could set traps, coordinate responses, and learn from defeats faster than expected. But the Infinity was wounded. Continuing the hit-and-run campaign with a damaged ship meant risking total loss. And if the Infinity was destroyed, Atlantis would stand alone against the full Wraith fleet. Sir, Chief said carefully, we've proven the concept. The Wraith know we can hurt them. But we've also shown them we can be hurt. If we continue and lose the ship, Pegasus loses its best defensive asset. So we retreat? We regroup. Return to Atlantis, conduct repairs, coordinate with Dr. Weir on integrated defense. The Wraith are mobilizing everything they have. When they come, we need to be at full strength. Lasky nodded slowly. Navigation, plot course back to Atlantis. Best speed the drive can handle. Sir, Palmer interjected, the 3rd Wraith fleet. The one heading for Atlantis. They'll arrive before we can get back and complete repairs. I know. Lasky's expression was haunted. But we've bloodied 2 fleets. Hopefully that's enough to make them cautious, and Atlantis has held before. They'll hold again. The Infinity limped through slipspace toward home, leaving behind burning hive ships and hundreds of human dead. Chief stood at the viewport, watching the strange energies of dimensional travel, and thought about the Wraith they'd killed and the ones still coming. They'd won battles today. But the war for Pegasus was far from over. The Infinity emerged from slipspace 300,000 kilometers from Atlantis, her hull scarred and smoking but intact. Through the bridge viewports, Chief could see the ancient city gleaming against the planet's ocean, still floating, still shielded, still defiant. But surrounding her were 12 Wraith hive ships in siege formation, their organic hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns as they maintained a coordinated bombardment of Atlantis's shields. They got here first, Lasky said quietly. Yet Atlantis shields are holding at 60%, sensors reported. Detecting multiple puddle jumper sorties engaging dart squadrons. The city's drone weapons have destroyed at least 3 hive ships based on debris patterns. But the Wraith are maintaining distance, now staying outside the drones. Effective range while wearing down the shields through sustained fire. Chief accessed the tactical network, studying the siege dynamics. Classic attrition warfare. The Wraith had learned from their defeats. They weren't getting close enough for the Infinity's SMAC guns to be decisive, and they were grinding down Atlantis' defenses through patient, methodical bombardment. Eventually the shields would fail, then the city would fall, unless something changed the equation. "Captain," Chief said, "request permission to deploy ground forces to Atlantis. If the shields fail, they'll need every soldier to defend the city." "Granted." "Commander Palmer, prepare all Spartan fire teams for combat drop." "Chief, coordinate with Colonel Sheppard. Let's make sure when the Wraith finally breach those shields, they regret it." The Pelican flight to Atlantis cut through sporadic dark patrols, longswords providing escort, while the city's own fighters kept the main swarms occupied. Chief sat in the troop bay surrounded by 24 Spartans. The ship's complement of supersoldiers, who'd spent the last week fighting aliens in a galaxy none of them had known existed. They looked tired, combat-worn, but still ready. The Pelican touched down in Atlantis' StarGate room. That magnificent chamber with the StarGate itself standing like a monument to ancient engineering. Dr. Weir was there to meet them, her diplomatic composure finally showing cracks from the strain of siege warfare. "Master Chief," she said, her voice carrying exhaustion and relief. "When we saw the Infinity emerge damaged, we thought, well, it's good to see you made it back." "Status?" Chief asked simply. "The Wraith have been bombarding us for 18 hours. We've destroyed 3 hive ships with drone weapons, but they've adapted staying at maximum range where our drones lose effectiveness. Our shields are holding, but at current drain rates, we have maybe 48 hours before total depletion." She gestured toward the command center. "Colonel Sheppard is coordinating defense. He'll want to see you." They found Sheppard in Atlantis' control room, standing before the ancient holographic displays showing the siege in real time. The colonel looked like he hadn't slept in days, but his eyes were sharp as he tracked Wraith positions and directed puddle jumper squadrons. "Chief," Sheppard said without turning. "Hell of a fight you had out there." "We intercepted Wraith communications, they recalling you the metal demons, and the Infinity, the fortress that moves between stars. You've got them scared, not scared enough to retreat," Chief observed. "No, but scared enough to commit everything they have to destroying us before you can get repaired and start hunting them again." Sheppard finally turned, and Chief saw the grim calculation in his expression. "They're going to win this siege, Chief. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but eventually our shields fail and they swarm the city. We've evacuated all non-essential personnel through the gate, but the expedition's military and scientific core is staying. When they breach, it'll be close quarters battle through these corridors. Then we make sure it costs them," Chief said. "Every Wraith that enters this city dies. We turn Atlantis into a fortress they can't take without losing so many ships that the other hive fleets see it as Pyrrhic victory." Ronan emerged from a nearby corridor, his energy pistol already holstered and a Wraith rifle in hand taken from an enemy corpse, Chief suspected. The Satidan warrior looked eager rather than afraid. "Spartans are here," Ronan said with satisfaction. "Good, now when the Wraith come through those shields they'll learn what real warriors look like." Taylor joined them, her tactical vest loaded with spare magazines and ancient grenades. The Athosian people have been evacuated to a safe world through the gate, as have most of our allies. But many chose to stay fighters who want to defend Atlantis. They're arming themselves in the armory now. Chief nodded. This was how last stands worked. The fighters stayed, the civilians fled, and everyone prepared for the moment when defense became desperate melee. He'd been here before. On Reach, on Installation 04, on Earth itself when the Covenant came calling. "McKay," Sheppard called out. The scientist appeared from his lab, still carrying the tablet he seemed surgically attached to. "Tell the Chief what you found," McKay's expression was complicated, fear and excitement warring for dominance. I've been analyzing the slipspace drive's hybrid integration while you were fighting. The ancient Forerunner interaction is fascinating but unstable. However, I think I can use that instability. He pulled up equations Chief barely followed. If we overload the ZPM in a controlled cascade and route it through the Forerunner components, we could create a dimensional rupture large enough to affect local space. In English, Dr. Chief said. We could create an artificial slipspace rupture that would destabilize Wraith hyperspace drives. Make it impossible for them to jump away. Trap them here. McKay's hands shook slightly, but it would also burn out the ZPM completely and probably damage the Infinity Z's drive beyond repair. You'd be stuck in Pegasus. Permanently. The silence stretched. Chief understood the implications immediately. Use the ZPM to trap the Wraith fleet, prevent them from escaping to call reinforcements or regroup, but sacrifice any chance of the Infinity returning home to the Milky Way. Trade mobility for decisive victory. How many ships could we trap? Chief asked. All 12 currently in system, plus any that jump in during the next few hours before the cascade completes. We're talking about forcing a final battle, everything we have against everything they commit. Winner takes Pegasus. Chief looked at Lasky through the comm channel, the captain's face grave on the holographic display. Sir, your call. Lasky was quiet for a long moment. Chief could see him weighing duty to the UNSC, duty to the 17,000 crew under his command, against the survival of Atlantis and every human in the Pegasus Galaxy. We came to this galaxy by accident, Lasky finally said. But we found humans fighting for their lives against extinction. The UNSC's mission has always been to protect humanity, all of it. If trapping these Wraith here saves Pegasus, if it gives the people of this galaxy a chance to survive, then that's what we do. He paused. Besides, between ancient technology and Forerunner components, I'm betting our engineers eventually figure out how to get us home. Might take years, but we're patient. Captain, McKay said carefully, you understand this means the Infinity becomes Pegasus's defender? You'd be stuck fighting the Wraith for however long it takes to defeat them completely? Doctor, we just spent 27 years fighting the Covenant. We know how to fight long wars. Lasky's expression hardened with resolve. Besides, we made friends here. And the UNSC doesn't abandon its friends. Ever. Chief felt something shift in the room, the moment when possibility became commitment, when soldiers accepted their mission, regardless of cost. Do it, he said. Trap the Wraith. We end this siege one way or another. The next 6 hours were preparation. McKay worked with the Infinity's engineers to rig the ZPM cascade. Spartans and Marines established defensive positions throughout Atlantis' critical sections. Sheppard's teams armed every fighter who volunteered, turning the ancient city into a fortress ready for desperate close-quarters battle. Cascade is ready. The Wraith finally announced their bombardment. On your command, Captain, we released the ZPM of prey they thought was local space will destabilize. They didn't know they were the ones being trapped. Seconds. And any ship trying to jump to hyperspace will suffer catastrophic drive failure. The effect lasts about 12 hours before dissipating. Atlantis shields? Lasky asked. 40% and falling, Weir reported. We have maybe 6 hours left. Then we don't wait. Lasky's voice carried across every channel. UNSC, Atlantis, every fighter preparing for the battle. All hands, this is Captain Lasky. In 30 seconds, we're committing to a decisive engagement against the Wraith fleet. We're going to trap them here and destroy them completely. This is what we've trained for. This is what we do. Show them why you don't hunt humanity. Show them that Earth, both Earths, protects its own. Lasky out. Execute, he ordered McKay. The scientist activated the cascade. Aboard the Infinity, the ZPM began overloading, its exotic energies feeding through Forerunner conduits and ancient interfaces in ways that violated every safety protocol. The dimensional rupture spread outward invisibly, saturating local space with energies that made faster-than-light travel impossible. Effect confirmed, sensors reported. Hyperspace is destabilized. Nothing's jumping out of the system. The Wraith noticed immediately. Chief watched the tactical display as the 12 Hive ships attempted to retreat, their hyperspace drives activating, then failing catastrophically. 2 ships suffered drive ruptures that tore sections of their hulls apart. The others simply found themselves trapped, unable to flee. And then they realized what that meant. Wraith communication spiking, sensors reported. They're calling for reinforcements. 8 more Hive ships jumping in system in response to distress calls. 20 ships total, Palmer calculated. They're committing everything in range. Good, Lasky said coldly. Let them come. Infinity, all ahead full. We're bringing the fight to them. And Atlantis, when our attack draws their bombardment away from your shields, launch every drone you have. Let's show them what ancient weapons were designed to do. The Infinity surged forward, her damaged but functional weapons charging for one final battle. Around her, longswords launched in full strength. Below, Atlantis's drone bays opened, releasing hundreds of the golden ancient weapons that had defended the city for millions of years. And Chief, standing in Atlantis's gate room surrounded by Spartans and Sheppard's fighters, chambered around in his MA-5D and prepared for the moment when Wraith boarders would try to take the city hand to hand. The battle for Pegasus had truly begun. Outside, 20 Wraith Hive ships converged on 2 human outposts, one a warship from another galaxy, the other an ancient city that had stood for millennia. The Wraith had ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years through fear and feeding. They were about to learn that humanity, whether from the Milky Way or through the StarGate, didn't kneel to predators. They fought back. And when humanity fought, it fought to win. The final confrontation would determine the fate of an entire galaxy. The Infinity and Atlantis stood together, 2 symbols of human resilience across the cosmos, united against ancient evil. Master Chief and Colonel Sheppard's alliance had forged something unprecedented. A bridge between universes, a bond between warriors and hope for millions who'd lived under the Wraith's shadow for 10,000 years. As the first salvos lit the void between ships, as ancient drones met Wraith bioweapons in deadly ballet, one truth became crystal clear. The Predators had finally met their match. If you enjoyed this epic crossover between Halo's UNSC and StarGate Atlantis, make sure to subscribe and come back for more incredible what-if stories. Drop a comment below with your favorite moment from Master Chief and the Infinity's battle in Pegasus, and tell us which character you want to see enter a different universe next. The Stargate is open, where should we go next? The story of the Infinity and Master Chief in the Pegasus Galaxy continues. The ZPM has been sacrificed, trapping 20 Wraith Hive ships for a final confrontation. Atlantis stands ready with full drone weapons and Spartan defenders. The Infinity, damaged but determined, charges into battle against impossible odds. And across the galaxy, human colonies watch and wait to see if Earth's warriors from 2 different realities can finally break the Wraith's 10,000-year reign of terror. The war is far from over. But for the first time in Pegasus's long history, the Wraith face enemies who match their patience, exceed their brutality, and refuse to be prey.